Welcome back to LonelyMan BGs in this overview of Shaolia, Warring States. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the deluxe version of this 2 to 4 player kingdom building worker placement game. The deluxe version comes with these fancy coins, which is nice because you can annoy your friends by rubbing them together faster and faster when they take too long on their turn. You are one of the most talented and competent leaders in Shaolia, but unfortunately, war has broken out. As a famed leader, your job is to build up and strengthen your territory to face the hordes of your opponents and become the new sovereign of Shaolia. Shaolia offers 8 different game modes that players can play, depending on the player count, and each mode lasts roughly the same amount of time, between 30 and 60 minutes. The first game mode that players should try their hand at is called Warring States, which is a 1v1 competition between 2 territories. The objective of this scenario is to deal 12 damage to an opponent's palace, or to gain a total culture score of 18. But let's take a step back and look at how the game works in general before looking at any of the other modes. During setup, each player is given a territory board, which has a couple of areas. Down here is the player's palace, which opponents will try to damage and destroy using a myriad of unit types. Adjacent to the palace is the player's culture score gauge, which advances as players activate places of higher learning and havens of spiritual presence. The territory board also has 8 slots for the building of purchased cards, 2 of which are locked at the game's start. Each player begins the game with a number of resources as well, depending on the scenario. Typically gold, dice, and character cards, which we'll go over in a bit. Shaolia is played over a number of rounds, each of which consist of 3 phases: the purchase phase, the building phase, and the action phase. During the purchase phase, players can purchase from 4 different categories. They can buy level 1 and level 2 cards, which offer abilities when activated. A smelter, for example, allows the player to gain 2 minerals when used. When buying a level 1 card, a card is simply drawn from the deck, whereas the level 2 deck offers a selection of 4 cards at all times. The player may also buy more dice and more officers, which allows players to perform more actions throughout the action phase. The next phase, the building phase, is where players may construct cards they have purchased onto their territory board. In order to actually activate a card a player has purchased, that card must first be built. Each card has a build cost in the upper right corner, typically requiring some combination of gold or minerals, and most level 2 cards have a building condition in the lower left corner. For example, in order to build this ancestral valley, the players must have a school already within their territory and pay 7 gold and 7 minerals. Players may also free up locked spaces by paying the gold requirement and demolish old buildings they no longer have use for. The action phase is where players roll their dice, then activate card abilities using those results. Let's say we have this humble farm. Directly below this farm is dirt, as well as this value 5 shown here. If the player rolled a 5, they can spend that die to activate this ability, which gains the players some coin. Alternatively, let's say we're activating this fleet card to deal 2 damage. This specific action requires a value 3 die, but we only have a value 2 die. The player can choose to spend an officer to immediately adjust this die's value by 1 in the preferred direction, turning it to a 3. Now, these are normal commands, which are normal. There are also combo commands, which require multiple dice to activate, and passive abilities, which do not require dice to be activated at all. Some cards, like this library, can utilize any die, regardless of value. Some cards are trade cards, which allow players to use the trading board, where they can buy and sell minerals, cards, and more. The trading board changes depending on what scenario is being played. The palace also has abilities that can be used during the action phase. 3 basic actions which players can use, and each ability only requires a single die of any value. Let's talk a little bit about attack and defense cards. First, each card has a number of hit points in their top right corner. If a card receives damage from, say, a cavalry card, the card receives a number of damage counters. Once a player destroys one of these cards, they will earn a number of gold pieces depending on what type of card was destroyed. In addition, some cards come with an ability that states that they must be attacked first. These are defense cards. Walls, fortresses, and barricades, for example, each demand that they be attacked first, before any damage can be allotted to the palace. Defense cards are always built in the front row of the territory board. At the beginning of the game, players receive random character cards, and the number gained depends on the type of game being played. These cards can be used at any time during any phase, and there are 2 effect types: immediate and build. The martial artist, for example, has a build effect, which acts as a defense card for a player's territory, while the shaman allows the player to draw new cards from the discard pile. Now, that's pretty much how the game works, so let's briefly look at some of the other game modes. Trade War is a mode where earning gold and trading is easier than in other modes, and utilizing the trade board will be critical to a player's success. The Three-Cornered War is a 1v1v1 game where players will make temporary alliances to take down the current leader, but players must be wary as there are no long-term alliances when only a single player can win. The alliance is similar to Warring States, except the game is 2v2. Players will cooperate to either gain the needed culture or destroy one of the opponent's palaces. In game mode number 6, one player acts as a tyrant, and the other two take on the role of cooperating challengers. The tyrant's attacks will target both opponents in this mode. This concludes our overview of the deluxe edition of Shaolia, Warring States. To learn more about the game, check out the links in the description. Thanks for watching.